It's a very nuanced subject area as the energy industry wishes to transform itself, and we as the globe wish to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and lower the carbon footprint. You need sticks and you need carrots. And in the US with the IRA, there's lots of carrots. We don't match the carrots. Incentivizing to maybe put a price on carbon and reduce the carbon footprint, I don't think is inherently bad, but it has to be applied fairly. I'm not sure it needs to be applied at a retail level, which really hurts the everyday person. Large emitters, if they build carbon pricing into their infrastructure and they're incentivized to do it, if there are subsidies and the governments have policy that help private capital get into the game of decarbonizing, then I don't think it's all bad. I'll tell you though, recently, I think it's been unfairly applied across Canada. It's tough to equate somebody who minus 30 in Alberta needs to heat their home and has LNG, that they would have to pay a carbon tax when the maritime Canadians don't have to. I think you can always improve. What I am annoyed with, like many Canadians, is we don't get credit for the good things we do. For instance, all of the emissions that we save around the globe because of LNG that could replace coal is forgotten. We don't get credit under the Paris Accord for that sort of thing, and we should. I also think Canada is the second largest country by landmass. We are spread out. I mean, most of us are close to the border with the US population-wise, but in order to get around this country, we have to travel. And so the transportation industry, there are reasons why we have perhaps a higher per capita footprint, but Mother Nature has given us carbon sinks. We don't seem to get credit for those in a fair way. And the displacement that we could lend the world with LNG in place of coal in China and other jurisdictions around the world, some of which don't have same human rights we have on an ESG basis and Indigenous involvement, I just don't think we get credit for all that. And we're Canadians and we're too polite and we should demand on it. CEA, the Canadian Energy Executive Association, which was formerly about 8 to 9 years ago called the Oilmans, rebranded then because it's more than oil and it's more than men. It's the Canadian Energy Association. And within that, it's comprised of all sorts of disciplines. Of course, oil and gas is a primary tenet of our membership, but we have geothermal, we have renewables, we have carbon capture, utilization, storage, we have some hydrogen people, we have lots of female executives, young, middle, senior. We've got Indigenous communities represented. We have, in the last year, we had 3 governors were Métis or First Nations by a nationality. We're there with the right mindset. So we're there to network, advocate with the right mindset, but we're also there to have fun. In many ways, the partners are important in that organization. So I've volunteered in so many organizations. Your spouse comes out or significant other for a Christmas party, and that's the only time we see that person. In this organization, they come to pretty much everything. I would ask anybody who's got a few more volunteer hours to give to look at our organization if you're looking for a fun place and a productive place to volunteer your time. What's unique about our organization is we have a group of governors, usually around 30 to 35 governors. There's an executive comprised of those governors, which is about 8 to 10 of those governors, the directors, if you will, and the chair group. And the chair group is tighter still. It involves the current chairs, plural, and that this past year was Brent and Allison Quinton. It involves the vice chairs, plural, Brian and Deanna Ham, who have become now for CS73 the current chairs as the organization's just kicked off our 73rd year. And it also comprised my wife and I as the immediate past chairs. And so at the event you were at, the chair group was really well represented. The governors, the sponsors, our speakers, our leading advocates are invited to that. You were there. The room has a very casual aspect to it, even though it is a fairly formal weekend, but it's a fun VIP reception. There's not a lot of arrogance and attitude in the air, is my perspective. Every year we seem to incrementally at least try to build on the last year. Jen and I were very proud of our year CS71, but CS72 even took it to another level. The Quintons brought in the Indigenous Education Fund, And that was a scholarship program to help young Indigenous students and also aspiring energy students with pretty significant scholarships. And we had our first year of award winners, and they were honored that weekend. That was really nice to see. And it was also an example of our organization giving back. This year upcoming, I know the Hams have in store some other things, including an expansion of our national engagement strategy, which is going to universities around the country and advocating for Canadian energy, trying to inform and educate our fellow Canadians about how good Canadian energy actually is, and putting more resources towards that. So I'm really excited about what's to come. Brett Wilson, Brett Wilson, has been a longtime supporter of Canadian energy, but also our organization. He's come out and been a great speaker of ours in the past. He really believes in the message. He has a unique and passionate way. If you've heard Brett speak, you know that he's got his own style, but he knows his stuff. And he's a little bit of a celebrity, having been a dragon, but he's a very well-respected advocate. With folks like that in the organization, and there's so many more that I could name, Brett is just one of the advocates that we've been lucky to have involved in our various energy business forums over the last few years. We're really proud of bringing in well-known and prominent energy advocates like Michael Schillenberger, Bjorn Lomberg, Alex Epstein, just to name a few. I think we have plans to bring Vaclav Smil in. Of course, one of our friendliest and beloved governors is Stephen Buffalo, and I think he's appeared 13 times at the Senate. He's a huge Indigenous proponent for sustainable resource development that sees real Indigenous participation and equity, but also wants to see Indigenous poverty ameliorated and growth for everybody to have part of. So those are the types of speakers that we bring in. We're really proud of that as an organization. And I know the Hams are planning right now some amazing speakers and panels to come in the year ahead. That was a brainchild of the Hams, who are now the current chairs, and it was supported by the then chairs, the Quintons, of course, the whole organization. Last year was our first year, and the Indigenous Endowment Fund accumulated just over $200,000 in its first year, which is managed by the Calgary Foundation. That allows a certain payment to the recipients that provides them with their head start in a post-secondary education program. And they were aspiring Indigenous students, aspiring into the energy space, essentially to make the world a better place. We were really proud of our recipients, and I think it's something great to build on. We have, as I've mentioned before, some governors who are Indigenous First Nations, and if these young folks can see that they too can take part in this amazing industry, which can bring you wealth and a high standard of living, but also allow you to change the world and make it a better place, I think good things are to come.